oftentimes a lot of what we feel as weight gain is a lot of water retention and inflammation in the body. Welcome to the Hotter Than Health podcast, a plant-dominant podcast for those looking to expand and elevate their lives. Each week, we will bring you provocative conversations and topics, entertaining interviews, and some of the biggest names in health and wellness to answer your burning questions. You will leave each episode with tangible tips and takeaways and understand what it truly means to live an energized and optimized life. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Hotter Than Health. It's good to be back with you live on the mic. It has been about a week and 2 weeks since I recorded real time, and let me tell you, I pre-record episodes, but I don't love it, and this feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. But here's what I will also tell you is that I did not realize that it was Wednesday because the world took off for the 4th of July, and my days since I got back from Italy have just been all over the place. So it is 4 p.m. I have to leave my house at 5 p.m. and things are just busy. Things are just busy, and that's great. I love it. But little things falling through the cracks, no big, but here we are. If this is your first time listening to the Hotter Than Health podcast, thank you so much for being here, and let me know how you found the podcast. If you enjoy it, feel free to head over to Apple Podcast, the purple app on your phone, or Spotify, and let us know if you like it. Leave us 5 stars, write a review, and anyone who writes a review is entered, or on Apple Podcast is entered into Win Review of the Week, meaning I will send you a free tote bag when I shout you out on the next week's episode. All right, let's get into today's episode. This is a solo episode, and we do have a couple of guests lined up for upcoming weeks, and I'm very excited about that. But like I mentioned before, it seems like, based on downloads numbers, it seems like people like the solo episodes, and we're going to keep it pretty clear. We'll do a quick recap and then get into 2 different topics. And firstly, thanks for asking. Italy was amazing. Absolutely freaking phenomenal. Got back from a 10-day trip and wanted to talk a little about muscle loss as well as health shaming, which is not a new topic by any means, and it's not something it's not revolutionary or groundbreaking, but it is something that I think is happening more and more frequently, and I want people to be aware of what that might look like, what it might seem like, and how to not really let it affect you. But we got back from a 10-day, 11-day vacation in Italy with family. It was absolutely incredible. We were on the Amalfi Coast in a small town called Nerano, and then we spent the last couple of days or nights in Florence, Italy, and the food, the people, the romance, the views, the energy, the way that our family interacted because of the calm environment and the familial style of how people pass time. Italy's great. And look, I'm the first one to recognize that anytime you open up your phone, anytime you look at Instagram, you see people on the Amalfi Coast. Oh, I'm in Positano. Oh, I'm eating. There's a million different people who are there right now who are enjoying it, and for good reason. It's the year for Italy. It's been the past couple years for Italy, and can't blame them. I'll be back there. That place absolutely takes your breath away, and it has something for everybody. But this is a health and wellness and nutrition podcast, so we will talk about the food a little bit. The food, when we stayed on the coast, I did seafood every single day, almost every single meal. It was more of an intermittent fasting situation. Accidentally, we would wake up really slowly with the sun, and then we would immediately put on bathing suits and walk down to the beach and have a little espresso. And something about the espresso there, and even using milk there was no bloat. there was no heartburn. There was no food coma. There was no, oh, I need to sleep for 3 hours after this meal. There was truly the bloat was the biggest eye-opening revelation that I had, because typically, even when you eat super healthy in the US, in the States, it's not even always about the ingredients, but about the way that you are eating. In Italy, it's a bit slower. They're eating for pleasure. I spoke to someone, he said, think about eating food and your meals like an orgasm. It's about the journey, not the destination. And you really are focusing on one bite at a time. You put your fork down, you enjoy it. Waiters aren't coming up to your table every 2 seconds to refill a drink and to do all these things and to ask questions and, oh, are you ready for the check, and clear your plate as soon as they're done. They want you to sit, they want you to enjoy, and that is the way it is. The way it is. And I think that that's something, and I'm sure anyone says this who comes back from Europe, they're like, oh, I'm a changed person, I'm going to change my whole lifestyle. I don't think that's the case, but it is one of those realizations that the way that you consume your food is equally as important as the ingredients. For instance, if we were eating just bread, cheese, and a bit of wine, then if I did that here, I'd probably be standing up or looking at my phone while I was doing it, or there'd be a show playing, or there would be a little bit of chaos. Whereas there, they put phones down, everyone's at an actual table, you are in a more relaxed environment, which does put you in a state of, it takes you out of that state of fight or flight, which your body is not properly digesting its food in that state. So when you're in that sympathetic nervous system, that parasympathetic nervous system, you're in that fight or flight mode, your body is not prioritizing digestion. And when you are in a more calm state, that's when you are more prone to better digestion, less bloating, less fatigue, and overall less sensitivities and severity, any type of reaction that you have after food. A lot of times people also say that they are super constipated when they travel. I swear, it was so wild. And y'all know I've curated this lifestyle in this way of traveling and being where I really focus on digestion and making sure elimination is working properly, even on vacation. And a huge part of that is the ingredients that are used and the lack of preservatives. I think that the food is much fresher there and more minimal, which I do believe it's a great way to live. Minimalist, but with so much food, or with so much flavor, so many, whatever. We don't have to get all the way into it, but it does really, the way that you are consuming your food will affect the way your food affects you. Think about that when you are having your next meal. Maybe you just listen to a little bit of music when you are having your meal tonight, and if you normally watch TV, or maybe you don't do anything. Maybe you just put your phone in the other room while you're eating and look out your window. Whatever you can do, small little tweaks, I think, make a huge difference. Damn, that trip was really fun. Oh my God. But I will say, my bag was lost. I have been on so many flights over the past month, and some of the flights themselves have been finicky and messed up and canceled or delayed or whatever, but I hadn't had any issues with bags. And it was my very last flight. I decided to change my flight to come home one night early from Boston. So instead of staying in Boston before I came home on the 4th of July, I came home on the 3rd that night. And when I landed at 9 p.m. in Charlotte, which means it was like 2 a.m. for me body clock-wise because of the time difference, I was ready to be home. And then I just knew it. I knew my bag wasn't going to make it. I knew it. It didn't show up. I knew when I checked it at the gate check, I was like, we're cutting it a little close. I do not think this bag is making it, but there's no way I could take that bag on the plane. So I was like, cut my losses. It's either get me my body home tonight and whatever it was. I got my bag back today. Shout out to the airline not for losing my bag, but for the way that they handled the processing. I got an email. They said, hey, we found it. And I went back in to the airport today, obnoxious, and got it. So we're all good there. But losing your bag does suck so bad. Let's get into the 2 topics for today. I wanted to talk briefly about muscle loss during vacation, and I think a lot of the times we go on to trips or we take breaks from working out. Maybe you had a surgery. Maybe you got your boobs done and they say you can't work out for 3 weeks. Or maybe you are traveling a ton for work and you only have access to body weight or walking or your non-normal workout equipment. And you feel like you are losing all of your progress. All of the gains that you've made in the gym, whether that be fat loss, weight loss, muscle gain, strength, whatever you feel you are lacking because of being out of your routine. It's interesting. I haven't done a true proper weightlifting workout like I typically do in about 2 weeks. So almost full 14 days. I did a little lightweight one yesterday just to get my body back into it. And then I'm doing hot yoga tonight and I'll do weights tomorrow. But I'm taking it slow. I feel like in the past I would come home and I would like go in and do an intense workout and try and use the exact same weights as I did before I left. But it's really not going to happen this time. I want to take it slow, get back into the groove of things. And not just the groove, but I just don't want to shock my body and be so incredibly sore the next day that I can't do another workout. So building up from here. But we hear a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I've lost all my progress. I've lost my gains. I've lost muscle or whatever the atrophy is or whatever the loss feels like. Oftentimes, if we have been on vacation, let's say you're on a more relaxing vacation, you're on a honeymoon, you're doing something where you're not working out, but you are relaxed, and it is some type of enjoyable, pleasurable trip. I think we should also consider the fact that maybe we feel smaller or atrophied or like we have lost progress because maybe we have lost or gained a little bit of water weight that is different. For us in Italy, I know that a lot of us spoke about feeling lighter after meals because we weren't constantly chugging water all day long, but when we did, we would like sip it slowly. It was room temp. It was a bit easier for our body to process. I do feel like a lot of us came back with less water retention, even though we were drinking more, eating more. It was the low cortisol, low stress of it all. Then there are other times when maybe you go to LA, you go to Austin where you're eating a bunch of food and it's like American food and it's fine. It's still delicious and amazing, but you're drinking a bit more, you're staying out super late, you're enjoying a vacation, but the food that you're eating might have more salt. It might have more all these things. And so you think, oh my gosh, I gained a bunch of weight on this trip. I've lost this progress that I've been making. But likely with 1 or 2 days of coming back and just being in a natural equilibrium of your lifestyle, of your foods and your routine, that water weight will typically dissipate. And I think that it's important to recognize what that looks like on our body. If you are bloated and it's almost that rock hard feeling in your stomach, or you almost feel like you can feel it. You can feel it in your body. You can feel the specific parts of you that are strained, bloated, or retaining more. If it's a natural fat part of your body, like an actual fat part of your body, it's softer, it's more supple. Yes, it's less defined, and that doesn't always mean it's fat, but it could also be that maybe that is fat compared to muscle, or maybe that is fat compared to water weight. I think that it's important to know because oftentimes a lot of what we feel as weight gain is a lot of water retention and inflammation in the body. And if you are just feeling like jeans are fitting you tighter, tops are fitting you tighter, oftentimes if we even look in the face and we feel like we have maybe less, like we're seeing less of our jawline, we're seeing less of your facial structure seems to be a little puffier, like you feel that inflamed that inflammation in your face, a lot of times that can be just from water retention. And within a couple of days, maybe it's your period when you're traveling. Maybe it's just a lot of random different food with high sodium and alcohol and lack of sleep. It is really easy to think that we have lost gains or progress, but oftentimes it does have to do with water weight and not necessarily lack of muscle. Yes, muscle is one of the hottest commodities for our body, meaning it's the easiest thing for us to lose. Our body, if we are in a state of stress, shock, turmoil, high cortisol constantly, our body is not going to prioritize holding on to something that's really heavy and dense like muscle. It's going to say, okay, how can we lighten our physical load? What is the most burdensome for us to hold on to? And that's muscle. It's much easier to hold on to fat than it is to hold on to muscle. But we would think that muscle is a hot commodity because it's a natural thermogenic. It's naturally burning calories. It's naturally burning fat. It's naturally giving us energy and giving us that lean, safe bodily structure. But then you have fat that your body definitely wants. It wants it for energy, for warmth, for comfort, for some types of protection. And of course, you need some body fat. I'm not saying don't have body fat, but there is that difference in what your body will prioritize keeping. So I'm not saying that you're not losing muscle. It could be that when you take off a couple weeks, yeah, there might be some muscle loss, but I do also believe in muscle memory and think that that is something we should also remember, is that we are creatures that want to move, and our bodies are more capable than we give them credit for when they are pushed to an extent that really challenges us. And when I'm sorry, I got zero sleep last night, so my brain's a little bit foggy, but I do mean all of this. When we push our bodies to a more intense level of fitness, weight training, and we fuel it properly, that's when muscle gain happens, which means fat loss is a natural byproduct of that. And when we maintain that, I do believe that it is easier to bounce back to that natural muscle mass a little bit quicker. I think that the more consistently you work out and you incorporate resistance training, the less time it takes for your body to bounce back, muscle-wise, tone-wise, strength-wise, and overall energy and the way that our body is structured. I will say, I had been really, y'all, if you follow me on Instagram at ElizaG_wellness, shameless plug. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I've been working out. Like I've been really, really honing in on the structures of my workouts. And then this trip, I was like, okay, I'm not going to let this trip be like other trips in the past where I'm doing everything I can to go find a gym and I'm going to find weights. Like I'm going to hold up a bedside table and use it as a squat weight or whatever it is. I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to find workouts that feel good and that feel conducive to the lifestyle that I have right there at the time. And I didn't stress about it. I will say, my ass feels smaller. Is smaller, excuse me. I came home and immediately had a boat day with a bunch of people and I put on my bathing suit, and I'm not complaining. This is just simply an observation. Yeah, the butt's smaller, but I'm confident that as I begin to incorporate my weight training regimen back in, it's going to pop right out just like I know it will, just like it had been before. And that sounds good to me. Quick transition to the next topic. Oh, but before I do transition to the next topic, here's something that's really been helping me out. I think that when we are, this is like a little tip for jet lag. When you come, not just jet lag, but being tired. Let's say I got like zero sleep last night, like I said. So when I don't sleep well, my cravings the next day, I just want chips. I want Cape Cod chips. I want fries. I want something salty. I want carbs, quick access to energy. Or maybe you're a person who wants sweets. Maybe you want candy or chocolate or ice cream or Oreos, whatever it is. When we or you would just reach for more caffeine. But when we are extremely tired, where our bodies naturally gravitate towards a easy carbohydrate or sugar. But if you can have the discipline to trick yourself in the beginning of the morning without starting your day with a bunch of carbs, it makes it so much easier to not avoid cravings, because they're always going to be there a little bit, but it makes it so much easier for your body to not focus as much on it and not have the grumbling hunger that you perceive as hunger, but is actually just a quick craving. One way that I did that this morning was I made myself a breakfast. I made 3 whole organic eggs with some broccoli sprouts and microgreens, black olives, tomato, half of an avocado, and it was so great, so fire. That's my new breakfast for a little while, but I'm in the luteal phase of my cycle, meaning that my body is prioritizing healthy fats, and the carbohydrates I'm trying to make like dark berries and cherries. But I started the day with not a lot of protein, but enough protein. I started the day with some protein, and then I prioritized putting a little bit of protein in my coffee. And I know that I've talked about this I'm not a broken record, because this is something I truly believe in and I do consistently every single morning. But I had my coffee and I put 1/4 of a scoop of protein in my coffee, and I use the Organifi vanilla protein right now. I'm going to switch to the chocolate when this one runs out, because I just like to switch it up a little bit. I think I do that every couple months. But the vanilla is super easy. I did my organic coffee, and then I did a teeny tiny bit of the protein. I whipped it up. It was this like frothy vanilla deliciousness that, yes, there was a bit of flavor in it, so it made it more of an enjoyable, almost like a latte. And then the protein in it helped to curb my hunger hormones for the rest of the day. So I had healthy fat from the avocado, and then I had some protein from my eggs. I had some cherries, which are a nice healthy carb. And then I prioritized caffeine just a little bit. But I think if I had added a bunch of bread, or if I had just done milk or a little bit of sugar in the coffee, then I would have been having hunger cravings all day long, like crashing, craving, no energy. But honestly, this bitch has been jumping off the walls. If you do want to try the morning structure for coffee that I do, you can go to Organifi.com and use the code HTH, and you'll get 20% off of any product. And I use the greens powder every single morning. I didn't this morning because I just went and picked up my frickin' luggage. Who says frickin'? Whatever, we're back on the frickin' train. But I did get my greens back today, so I'm very excited for tomorrow morning's ritual to be back in play. But I love their greens juice. I love their magnesium. I like the pre-workout that I have been using, that I plan on using tomorrow morning. I'm very excited about it. But either way, you can check out Organifi.com/HTH for 20% off of your order. And I know you'll love it. Like I said, quick pivot into the next topic, which is health shaming. And I've talked about this before, and I've talked about this with friends. And something that I don't think is it's recognized, but it's not talked about, and it's super frustrating, because there's this culture of course, love your body and enjoy yourself, relax, have the pasta, have the burger, have the ice cream. Like, of course we can do whatever these things, eat whatever you want, eat what like makes you feel best. That's always been the motto, and this is something that's a passion and a priority for me. And if it's not a passion and priority for you, that's fine. But I know that the people who are listening to this podcast are people that are interested in nutrition or wellness to some extent, and they do have it as some sort of a priority. And I'm only saying that because this is what I know when I talk to you guys, or if you message me, then I know that this is something that's important to you, and that's why we chat, we banter. If you have questions, I answer them. If I have questions, then I ask other people. And one thing that it's not frustrating to me anymore, because I feel like I've turned it off and I've muted these people, not on Instagram, but in real life, I just tune them out and put blinders on. But there are so many people who are health shaming people. Here's what I mean by health shaming. There's not one person, if you go to a group dinner, let's say if you're in Charlotte, you go to, I don't even know restaurants in Charlotte. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Let's say you go to like 300 East in Charlotte, or you go to, let's call it 300 East, Firebirds, or in Charleston, you go to Basic Kitchen. And I'm just using two main demographics from the podcast. You go to dinner. You're going to have a couple people order burgers. You're going to have a couple people order a salad. You're going to have a couple people order some type of pasta dish. There's not going to be anyone who says, "Oh my God, I can't." We might think that people are going to say this about us, but I've never experienced anyone. And if you've had this experience, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that this is like a black and white term. This is just in general. It's not often that someone's going to say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're ordering a burger. Like, you don't need the burger." Or, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're ordering pasta. Like, didn't you have a sandwich for lunch or bread or blah, blah, blah." And yeah, there are going to be some people who speak like that, but I mean, come on, like, who does that? And if you are mean, but there will be someone at the table who either, for some reason, maybe it's not an insult, maybe it's not rude necessarily, but they will remark on the fact that you order a salad at a dinner, because it can be triggering to some people who, like, maybe they're going to dinner because they want to get wine and they've had a tough day, or they're just really trying to treat themselves, and or whatever, they just love this burger, they love this pasta, they love whatever dish they're getting that isn't quote unquote a salad or quote unquote healthy, even though it definitely can be in all those places. But there will be people who call out, "Well, why are you getting a salad? Why are you trying to be healthy? Like, aren't you just going to indulge?" And for whatever reason, whatever anyone else orders, it doesn't affect you. It does not affect you. And if it's affecting you, then don't blame the person who's ordering whatever the fuck they want to order. Look inward, recognize, okay, is this actually something I care about? Will I think about this later? Or is this something that is throwing me off mentally in my head, and I want to make misery loves company, so I'm going to make someone else feel uncomfortable so that they match my level? One, recognizing that in yourself, bravo, but stop. Recognize that you do that, and then think, okay, well, this doesn't have anything to do with me. But what I'm trying to get at is that the subconscious, subliminal health shaming is one of the most frustrating things you can do. If there's someone who wants to work out of course there's always a line, and I'm not saying there's not a line. There's definitely, if you are genuinely concerned about someone's eating habits to the point where you're like, this is getting really unhealthy, I'm concerned, this is my friend, or this person is, working out a ton, it's getting to the point where it's an obsession, it's something that I feel like it's affecting their life in a big way. Like, I've definitely seen both sides. I've been close to both sides in different ways, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means. I'm saying that these are just observations, and I don't have it all figured out, but I'm trying to tune it out because I know what makes me feel good. But I've been in both sides. There is a spectrum. Now, if you're falling along in the spectrum of, sorry, I kind of just went on a tangent there and almost lost my train of thought. Great. When you are in a situation that with the workouts, excuse me. But let's say you're on a vacation and you want to wake up a little bit earlier and go for a run, or you want to pull up your phone and do a workout from YouTube on your app. Like, maybe you're staying at a house and there's no gym around, and that's what I did a little bit. And then I went and did my own thing. Sometimes my sister joined me. Sometimes we went for a hike. There were a lot of different ways, and I didn't feel any which way about it. But if someone is calling you out for working out during a vacation, of course, if you're like holding up the group because you want to go to a spin class on a bachelorette and nobody else wants to go with you and you're making everyone late for brunch, like, that's one thing. Come on. But if you want to go move your body and it's a natural part of your lifestyle, you feel better, yeah, you'll probably still have to modify some things on a trip. But if people are shaming you for that, then again, blinders on, has really nothing to do with you. It really has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with what could potentially come up for other people. It's none of their business. And just the way that they are not, if they are choosing to not do something or order differently, none of that is your business either. And who cares? There's, again, a difference between wanting to make sure someone is not hurting themselves or abusing themselves or others because of an obsession to these things, or you think that there's a true issue with eating or with working out. But when it comes to general health shaming, the little comments, to me, it's more, hey, look, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do. But there are some people that are going to take that to heart. They are going to take it to heart, and they are going to think about it and think about it and think about it. And I'm not saying you have to like always watch what you say, but I am saying if you're saying it because it's actually affecting you, that's one thing. But if you're saying it, or I'm sorry, if you're saying these things to someone at a dinner, or there's a friend during a group trip who's working out, if you're able to observe to yourself, okay, maybe I wish I hadn't been so hungover because I wanted to work out, and so I am going to comment on this. Keep it to yourself. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't bother. It's really not changing your life at all. It has nothing to do with that other person and everything to do with you. And I think that the self-awareness is really important. And again, I'm not a huge believer in like, oh, make sure what you're saying doesn't offend any single person. Like, hello, if you listen to this episode, this podcast, I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I'm not a fan of, oh, hold your tongue, make everyone comfy. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, don't talk about shit that has nothing to do with you. And if you think it's affecting you personally, then look inward. That's something to observe about yourself. I hope that didn't end on a harsh note. It feels like it did. I don't mean it to. I have a really beautiful view right now. Things are great, but there is a wasp's nest being built outside my window, and truly, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it. I wonder if that is something that the leasing department would deal with. Anywho, I wanted this to be a brief solo episode with a bit of a recap and a little bit of gratitude. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if this is your first time, head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us 5 stars, be entered in for review of the week so I can send you a gorgeous tote bag. And with that said, I look forward to chatting with you all next Thursday. Yeah.